Hello, how are you? Today, inshallah, we will start with 16.2 ideas that shape Darwin thinking. Let's start with part 1. This lesson is divided into 2 parts. Make sure that you watch the 2 parts, okay? Let's start with the first one, with the objectives. For my objective today, I need to identify the conclusions Darwin's by Houghton and Lyell about the Earth history and to describe Lamarck's hypothesis of evolution. Let's start with the first objective. What did Houghton and Lyell conclude about the Earth history? You have to know what they conclude. The conclusion is Houghton and Lyell concluded that Earth is extremely old and that the process that changed Earth in the past are the same process that operates in the present. And you have to know that geologists Houghton and Lyell formed an important hypothesis based on the work of other researchers and on evidence they uncovered themselves. And Houghton and Lyell concluded that Earth is extremely old. So the first conclusion, the Earth is extremely old. Houghton recognized that connection between a number of geological processes and geological features. And he realized, for example, that certain kinds of rocks are formed from molten lava, other kinds of rocks formed very slowly, like sediment buildup, and are squeezed into layer. And he introduced a concept called deep time. You have to know that what we mean by deep time, which is the idea that our plant history stretches back over a period of time so long that it's difficult for the human mind to imagine. So that idea is to explain his reasoning. At the same time, Lyell presented a way of thinking called uniformitism, the idea that the geological process we see in action today must be the same ones that shaped Earth millions of years ago. Ancient volcanoes released lava and gases just as volcanoes do now. And ancient rivers slowly dug channels and carved canyons in the past just as they do today. Lyell's theory, like those of Houghton, relies on there being enough time in Earth history for these changes to take place. And like Houghton, Lyell argued that Earth was much, much older than a few thousand years. This volume cut from Lyell's Principles of Geology shows geological features near Italy mountain Inca. Among them is a deep channel labeled B curved into a bed of lava. Okay, curve B labeled into a bed of lava. Lyell's work helped Darwin appreciate the significance of an earthquake he witnessed in South America. And at the same time, the quake was so strong that it lifted a stretch of rocky shoreline more than 3 meters out of the sea, with mussels and other sea animals clinging onto it. Sometimes later, Darwin observed fossils of marine animals in the mountains thousands of feet above sea level. So, Darwin realized that he had seen evidence that Lyell's was correct. So, Lyell's principle of geology in the eye of Darwin is correct. Geological events like the earthquake repeated many times over many years could build South America Andes mountains a few feet at a time. Rocks that had once been beneath the sea could be pushed up into mountains. Let's check Lamarck evolutionary hypothesis. How did Lamarck propose that species evolve? We need to know, how did Lamarck propose that species evolve? The first thing, Lamarck suggested that organisms could change during their lifetime by selectively using or not using various parts of their bodies. And he also suggested that individuals could pass these acquired traits on to their offspring, enabling species to change over time. So, Darwin wasn't the first scientist to suggest that characteristics of a species could change over time. Also, Lamarck thought the same idea. Throughout the 18th century, a growing fossils record supported the ideas that life somehow evolved, but ideas differed about just how life evolved. In 1809, the French naturalist Lamarck proposed the hypothesis, which is the organisms could change during their lifetime by selectively using or not using various parts of their bodies. Again, the hypothesis is that organisms could change during their lifetimes by selectively using or not using various parts of their bodies. So he aligned individuals could pass these acquired traits on to their offspring, enabling species to change over time. So suggested that all organisms have an inborn urge to become more complex and perfect. You have to know that. More complex and perfect, and to change and acquire features that help them live more successfully in their environment. So again, he proposed that all organisms have an inborn urge to become more complex and perfect, and to change and acquire features that help them live more successfully in their environment. So Lamarck thought that organisms could change the size or shape of their organ by using their bodies in a new way. So the thoughts by Lamarck that the organism could change the size or the shape of their organs by using their bodies in new ways. Let's check again the Lamarck's ideas. For example, black-necked stilt could have acquired long legs because it began to wade in deeper water looking for food. As the bird tried to stay above the water surface, its leg would grow a little longer. And traits altered by an individual organism during this life are called acquired characteristics. Again, traits altered by an individual's organism during its life are called acquired characteristics. Lamarck also suggested that a bird that acquired a trait like longer legs during a lifetime could pass that trait on to its offspring, and this principle is referred as inheritance of acquired characteristics. So again, inheritance of acquired characteristics means that the organism that acquired the new trait will pass this trait to its offsprings. So over a few generations, birds like the black-necked stilt could evolve longer and longer legs. Let's check or evaluate Lamarck's hypothesis. Today we know that Lamarck's hypotheses were incorrect in several ways. The first thing, which is organisms do not have an inborn drive to become more perfect. The second one, evolution doesn't mean that over time a species become better somehow, and evolution doesn't progress in a predetermined direction. And in the same time, traits acquired by individuals during their lifetime cannot be passed on to offspring. So there's no passing for the acquired traits to other offsprings, okay? However, Lamarck was one of the first naturalists to suggest that species are not fixed, and he was among the first to try to explain evolution scientifically using natural processes, and he also recognized that there is a link between an organism's environment and its bodily structures. So you have to know that the acquired characteristics will not be inherited, okay? And the evolution is not just for the better. Sometimes the evolution or the traits, acquired traits, must be is not for the better, okay? That's the end of the first part of the lecture. Have a nice day and thank you.